All right, guys, we're live. It's Justin Stenstrom from EliteLifeNutrition.com and the Elite Life Podcast. And my guest today is BJ Gaddour, a men's fitness expert, health expert, and the host of the fairly new show, I believe, the Daily BJ Podcast. How new is the show?
6 years. But
Oh,
you know
okay,
what?
never mind.
Most of my people are still trying to figure out that I actually have a podcast. So I guess it is new.
Yeah, well, you know what? Because I figured you just mentioned that you don't promote it as much, and you go on different shows and stuff. I figured it was fairly new. And I heard of you, as I mentioned before we jumped on, I've heard of you a long time ago, probably, 10, 15 years ago on Men's Health, Men's Fitness, all these different websites, these big sites. I just kind of figured, you were off doing something completely different because a lot of these guys will start on, YouTube, or they'll start doing clips on Instagram, become an Instagram fitness model, and then they'll kind of evolve into the podcasting or some other platform. So it's been how many years since you've been in this, BJ?
This is my 20th year in
Wow.
business. I
Wow.
basically got started
So
while in
you're an
college.
OG. Like you've been
Yeah, no,
doing
I'm
this stuff for a
one of
long
the
time.
original online trainers. I started right at the beginning of Facebook and then YouTube. So um, it's kind of a good and a bad thing. You're around for so long that, it gets boring to like have to do the same shit day in, day out. But
Yeah.
that's part of what we'll talk about today. Motivation tends to shift as you get older, and turned 40 recently last year, and had my little midlife crisis, and just got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. What did that look like? The midlife crisis?
Well, I think a big part of, you talked about motivation, like when you're younger, you want to get name recognition, you want to become famous, you want to make a lot of money. Uh, it's all about like the ego, right? And as I've gotten older, I can't get motivated like by the way I look anymore, or praise from other people. It's just really money at this point, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I want to make really good work. I take a lot of pride in my work, but um, the shift in motivation has been really interesting. So I've got to really focus now on kind of falling in love or back in love with the process, and being okay with things being routine and boring because I've been in this for so long. But part of it too is, mastery is a lifelong process, and I'm constantly tweaking and fine tuning things. I'm on like 20.0 of some of the stuff and content I've made over the years. Like, for example, how to do push-ups. I've talked about it for 20 straight years. Every year I try to talk about it in a new, unique angle, different way to get, men motivated to keep, sticking with the basics and keep making progress. So from the midlife standpoint, really, it's just, you look at the reality that the human brain really was never designed to get past 40 years. Like, this is all like, we're all on borrowed time at this point, dance and health, and like,
Good point.
and I don't have kids. So the purpose of life, you really have to kind of go inside. I battled some mental health issues during the pandemic as well, like a lot of people, stuff from my past. And, ultimately, it was kind of like this ego death. I retained just enough ego so that, again, I take pride in my work. And I still want to do big things and make an impact, but it died enough so that I can just focus on, what matters most, the family time with them, my wife, my dog, and then prioritizing, the limited time I have to the people that I have, on the podcast or at my site app, the Daily BJ. So, I mean, it kind of depends what specifically you want to go in there, because it was a very dark period from a mental health standpoint for me. But the beauty of that is, for me, fitness, whenever I had troubles in business, mental health, whatever it is, fitness has always been my base. I haven't missed a workout since I was 14 years old. And even when I get lost mentally or in other aspects of life, I always at least have that routine I can fall back on and just throw myself into, which I think is important, because when you get completely lost, then really terrible things can happen. But, I've always had this baseline of, movement, and movement can energize. It's one of the few things you can control. You can control how you move your body, what you put in your mouth, what you prioritize in your life. And so, that's really it's been an interesting journey. I feel like I'm on the other side of it. I was really depressed about turning 40 and getting old and being an old man in a young man's game. I mean, these guys, you see what these guys look like when they're 20. they've taken advantage of all the knowledge we pass along the way, better diet, more exercise knowledge. A lot of them are taking some enhancements as
That's
well,
so,
which is
yeah.
more challenging. And I've always kept it natural.
Yeah.
That's the big thing for me is, Be Fitness is about maximizing your genetic potential. And some people like to take stuff, and that's up to them. I'd always be honest if I did, but for me, it's always been about a natural pursuit of maximizing what you've got and then transcending that into other aspects of life. So,
Yeah.
probably should let's ask a question here.
No, that's cool, man. There's a lot there. I want to jump into a few of them. Just on that last point, though, as far as being natural, like when you were listing off a couple of things, that's immediately what popped in my head. It's like a different ball game now, and it's so easy to get, steroids or HGH or trend or any of these things that they're doing now, and blow up within a few months. Whereas it takes natural guys like you and I years to get to a point where you're actually like really looking good and maximizing your, genes. But it, on one hand, it's like, I don't want to hate on these guys because they're, out doing a certain thing, especially if you play like a sport. A lot of these athletes are on juice, they're doing something. You're making a living for yourself, your family, you're creating a legacy, whatever it is. Like that might be the trade-off that you want. But for somebody else who's just going on, say Instagram to get juiced up and take a bunch of pictures and then pretend like they're a natural guy, it sets like a pretty poor, I don't know, like a role model to the up and coming generation of like getting things really quick, getting things fast and easy, and not actually putting in the hard work to get to that level. Like, what do you think of when you see all these young guys kind of blowing up and getting 1 million followers on Instagram within, like a year or so of, taking a bunch of juice and just getting jacked?
So I see it from a couple perspectives, look, you got to make your money, and you got to make it while you can, and you got to make it last.
Yeah.
We can live a long life. So, and in this age, I think, men take a long time to mature. I'm on a path. I've chosen a different path. When I was younger, I could have gone the route of, drugs and surgeries to just make myself look so much better and take advantage of as much attention and money as possible at the expense of then being in my 40s, crippled, broken down.
Yeah. Heart attack.
Exactly. All of our heroes from the 80s and 90s are the wrestlers, the actors, the athletes, all on shit.
Yeah.
The people that we looked up to. I do think that has damaging effects. And as someone who, I was the first personal trainer ever on the cover of Men's Health for not only the US, but multiple international editions. At the time, I was 35, in the best shape of my life at the time. And I felt I looked like shit.
Wow.
Because all day long, people would talk about your calves are small, your nose is weird. The reality is, it's a slippery slope. You're never going to look big enough or lean enough or good enough because people always look at your weaknesses. And if you have that mindset too, and that's what's so dangerous about, I love what bodybuilding is originally intended to be, the natural pursuit to maximize what you've got. I hate what it's become, which is a perfectionist-driven thing, which requires enhancements, surgeries, or both, just lies, deceit, gimmicks, scams. It sums up fitness, right? Get shredded in 28 days. You got to give people what they want, but at the same time, I look at from both a business influencer standpoint, also just from a standpoint of just everyday men just trying to get started and get back in shape or make fitness a priority. There's fool's gold and there is longevity. And, this one, the longevity piece, that's the path no one wants to take. And that's the path that I've taken. I'm hoping to look my best in my 50s, because I'm gonna stay available. I'm gonna avoid injury. I train super smart and risk averse, and I snowball and slow cook the gains every year. So I'll just keep gaining a little more muscle and losing a little more fat every year. By the time I'm 50, I'm gonna be a fucking animal. And it's more impressive every year you get older that you can maintain it or even build upon it. I may not have the same raw physicality or recovery ability I had in my 20s, but here, my discipline, man, I can go all day without eating, and I can work 6 to 6. And I've gotten so much more discipline with my diet. I keep sharpening that sword. I can't be the biggest guy in the room anymore, but I can be the most conditioned, and I can have a total fitness. I'm not just going to have a pile of muscle mass and not be able to touch my toes or sit on the toilet. So, there's And what's crazy, I saw that Ronnie Coleman documentary a couple of years ago, and like it was just so depressing. There was this guy, like all the genetic gifts you can handle, an incredible work ethic. Again, you don't want to. It doesn't take away the work ethic. You still got to lift the weights.
Yeah.
You got to do the cardio. You got to follow the diet. The drugs just make it so much easier because you can just do unlimited sets. You know what I'm saying? Like you can train all fucking day. You can train 3 times
Yeah.
a day and see endless results. The guy, he goes to events now, he falls asleep. He's
Really?
crippled. He's got crutches. It's just so sad because I'm so intelligent with how I train the body because I had to be. I had all these injuries as a football player because I got pushed into powerlifting. By the time I was 22, 4 knee surgeries, 2 on each knee. I was told that I had the arthritic or cartilage damage of an 80-year-old. That squatting, lunging, running was done for me. I had to completely rebuild my body over the last several decades. It's been a humbling journey. And it's crazy now. I'm actually doing things I've never done with my body before over 40. But it's because I was willing to work the system and not take the shortcuts, because that's what the first like 14 to 21 shortcuts. Keep trying to put more weight on the bar. Eat as much as possible. Don't worry about your mobility, your conditioning, and you get the fool's gold, right? You get the ego, you're big, you're strong, you're a man, and ultimately you're nothing because it's a house of cards. There's no foundation, there's no base.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it's I think everybody goes through that too. I remember I started lifting. I was 14 years old. From probably 14 to 24, it was all about bulking up and just being massive. Did all the stuff, the weight gainers, the creatine, the protein shakes 4 times a day, the eating, 7, 8 meals a day, just exorbitant amounts of calories. It takes a toll on you, and it adds up. And if you have any problem, especially with things like we're learning a lot more now of like different background viruses like Epstein-Barr that may be in your system, herpetic viruses, shingles, things like that kind of sit around. You're putting garbage into your body for like 10 years straight. It just feeds all the bad things in your body, not to mention like the heavy metals from, tuna and different certain foods and different aspects of, what you're ingesting. After 10 years of doing that, 15, 20 years of doing that, your body is really suffering internally, not to mention physically. If you're doing all this, massive weight and trying to gain all this size, it really is. It's fool's gold, like you said.
With that too, let's just talk about because again, when I played, I was a lineman and played at about 275 my senior year.
Wow.
I'm now like at my best, 210, 215, lean.
What's your height?
6'2".
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, it's a good size, but 275 is massive.
Oh, I was big, and I could bench close to 400 pounds.
Wow.
And had trouble sleeping, sleep apnea, snoring.
Oh yeah.
Joints, every joint hurt, particularly obviously my knees, like I talked about. And where was I? I was going specifically something with. Oh yeah, so I had to eat 6 to 8 times a day to maintain that weight. The human body was never meant to digest that many times a day.
No. I
don't care how many good stuff you're giving it. I'm just thinking of all the guys like you and I, like how much damage have we done to our digestive system? That's why the plan I follow now, it's more of I'll have coffee and then I'll have my greens powder in the morning, a midday shake, and then I have a big protein and produce meal at night. So really only eat solid food in the evening. That's part of my strategy too, to get a lot of work done, stay lean year round. Just an easy, simple plan. But also I'm just trying to offset some of the damage of just how much food I slammed, all the egg and protein farts. I mean,
yeah.
It's not good, and it's also just not sustainable. If you're busy, like in college, okay, it's your job. You make your body your job, especially if you're an athlete. But I don't even have time. Even before this podcast, I had to quickly take a Fairlife ready to drink protein shake because I couldn't even have time to make my healthy shake with a blender, which is only 5 to 10 extra minutes. But I look at that too, and just also look at the inflation prices on food, and just the fact that one of the smartest investments anyone can make for their long-term health is just reducing their body weight by 5 to 10 pounds. The toll it will take on your joints, your heart rate, it's one of those things. We're pushed to be supersized, and dude, we make a comfortable living, but every time I go to the grocery store, man, it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts. I mean, the things, jerky used to be $3. Quality jerky is $15 right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we're almost incentivized now. We have been incentivized to choose shitty, cheap foods.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to eat good, healthy foods, unless you are completely loaded and there's no money to worry about, I mean, you got to be really selective in what you choose. And for me, it's just like, you know what? I feel best at kind of a, you know, I guess here's how I describe it. I kind of transform my body from my 20s, early 30s to now, like from a beast to a warrior. Going from like a heavyweight to a light heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? So I still able to demonstrate strength, power, but light enough and tight enough that I can go the distance. It's not going to be like my nutrition doesn't take over or supplementation doesn't take over my life or my schedule. And it's affordable. It's cost effective. It's something that I can teach people. You know, you can't teach people 6 to 8 times a day of food or multiple 2+ hour gym sessions. You can't teach people that. There's just no time. So that's really the biggest thing. I've always tried to embrace the process with which I teach and coach. You know, from a transparency standpoint, a credibility standpoint, I live it. I train where you see me right now. This is my home gym. I film here too. Behind me is the kitchen, the living room, and then my office is right there where we do the work. In the garage is where we hold our fashion line, where we ship out of. Backyard, we do some content there too. That's where I do my outdoor workouts and pool. So again, it's like I built this entire ecosystem around this initial transformation I had when I was young and just trying to help people lose weight, overcome injuries. And it's been quite a journey. But being in it for so long, it does sadden me to see that like the number of people now that are like, people are getting joint replacements in their 40s.
Yeah, it's wild.
And that means, by the way, they're going to have to get another one probably in 20 years. They might have to get multiple joint replacements for the single joint before they pass. It just because of the fool's gold, right?
Yeah.
The shortcuts, the sensational stuff.
It's kind of like it's almost it's a very similar comparison for what women face nowadays too. It's like they see the Kim Kardashians of the world with the fake butts, the fake boobs, the fake lips, the whatever else they're getting, the injections in their eyes, all this stuff, noses. And it's like all these women see her on Instagram, her sisters on Instagram, they're doing all these things to cosmetically improve their look. And it's like it's so unnatural, so unhealthy for you to aspire to that. Whereas guys, is in the same token, are seeing, other Instagram influencers, these famous, even The Rock, like guys like The Rock, who seems like a decent dude, but he's clearly been juicing for many years. I mean, he's gotten bigger and more jacked as the years go by. I think he's like 50 in his 50s. And it's like, so guys look up to him and his physique, and it's so unrealistic and unattainable that they end up choosing that path just to try to emulate somebody like that they look up to. And it's so not the right look to go after. It actually reminds me too, when you mentioned Ronnie Coleman, of how he's doing nowadays compared to Dorian Yates, who I interviewed on the podcast before. Dorian switched over to like a vegan lifestyle and cut out all the juicing and all this stuff many years ago, and actually embraced more of like a holistic approach to his weightlifting, his lifestyle. He went and did ayahuasca and a bunch of like, plant ceremonies and stuff. So he's super healthy now. Him and his, I think, girlfriend or wife now are super healthy, and they have just like a very clean way of living. And the guy's doing great. Whereas you juxtapose that to Coleman, who I think never really embraced that, getting out of the gym mentality and being massive. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to disparage the guy, but it's just two different, ways of looking at things when you get older, and especially for guys who are used to being in that lifestyle.
So here's a great example. And again, it's no shade to these guys because
I still respect both of them because they're both legends.
The hardest workers in the room. They have God-given talents, and they've kept showing up. But Chris Hemsworth, that guy naturally looks the way that most guys in the world would love to look and be.
Yeah.
But even he gets caught in, like, the last Thor he did, man, like the size of his head almost doubled.
Yeah.
And he was doing interviews, and he told the reporters that his wife and his wife's girlfriends were like, "This is kind of gross, man. Like, you overdid this." And he knows he did, but again, it's a slippery slope. Every time you come back, you want to make it bigger and better. And because actors have to go between, you know, like Christian Bale, right? He goes from 110 pounds eating an apple a day for, I believe, a machinist, and then he's got to go to 225 to play Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's an all-timer right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did he do it?
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, and so there's this, you got to keep pushing the envelope, but at the end of the day, you end up looking worse, feeling worse. And then it is not sustainable. So there is this huge depression and hangover that comes with being in peak shape and then not being, and then you start to hide, right? You start to shower in the dark. You know, again, it really fucks with your mind. Like I said, I suffered body dysmorphia while at Men's Health because I was under eating, over exercising, getting in front of millions of people every day online across all outlets, mostly positive, but usually all you focus on is the negative when you're getting criticized. And I never felt worse about how I looked. So, and I never took drugs and I never got surgeries. So, you know, I can only imagine like the mindset of someone who goes through that, because it just fucks you up, man. You don't even know who you are anymore. And again, like Chris Hemsworth, he's got the good genetics, man. Like all you had to do was just do a little lifting and cardio, you would have been good. But even he got caught in like, because now he's competing against The Rock, and The Rock literally adds a new zip code to his body every decade. He's the first one to ever do it, apparently. Like, how many people do you know in your 40s and 50s getting bigger, stronger, and leaner? I don't care how good your genetics are. You know, we know that peak physicality prime is 25 to 30.
Yeah.
Natural.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's sad. It's just like, you know, he clearly doesn't want to admit it for a number of reasons, probably mostly monetary, but it's like, you know, all these kids look up to you, and even a lot of women, it's like they talk about him in a certain way, and it's like, you guys realize this guy's juicing through the gills. Like he's not even taking a little, he's taking a massive amount of stuff. He just gets more and more jacked like every year, it seems like. But I guess to each his own. To me, though, it does kind of, when you were talking, it basically made a reference to like drugs. Like when you're younger, you're having a good time, everything's great. You know, 20s, 30s, you can get away with doing drugs, and life is fine. But as you get older, you have to pay for that cost later on. Like in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s, look at somebody like Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, or some of these older like rock guys who did drugs for many, many years, or Ozzy Osbourne, you know, many years of drugs. And then later on in life, 50s, 60s, 70s, they're really paying for it because of the hard way they lived when they were younger. It's kind of the same type of thing with the steroids and, you know, this other stuff that people take. You might look great, you might have fun now, but you're going to have to pay for that somewhere down the line.
And like we talked about earlier too, like I feel like my balls finally dropped when I turned 40. You know what I mean? Like now I'm a grown ass man.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a type of chest hair now, like it curls. I'll eat jerky, and then sometimes like jerky gets caught in my chest hair. Like I'm a man.
Yeah.
He's 40. So, you know, no one's going to mistake me for being a kid anymore is what I'm trying to say, even when I shave.
Yeah.
So it takes a long time to figure out who you are as a man. We really mature slowly. And a lot of it's because how we interact with each other. You know, you're never in a more dangerous situation than when you are in a room with multiple men, because testosterone is exponential. You know, the competitiveness of it, the territorial nature of it. You know, we are raised to put each other down and to try to take from one another versus elevate each other.
Yeah.
We're taught a mindset of scarcity versus abundance. But the reality is, like, it takes our brains a long time to just become good, complete people. And when you sell out for your youth, you're left with the second half of your life being a total fucking has-been. And that's part of what I was battling. It's like I was the Men's Health guy. And now it's like, it feels like cricket some days when I go online trying to reach the same number of people, but I'm going after it the wrong way. You know, I left because I wanted to do my own thing, not have to fight with so many chefs in the kitchen, and then just, you know, really live and operate through the ideal lifestyle, the autonomy, the freedom of schedule, all that. But if I look at it from that standpoint of like how many people I reach, the rest of my entire life will be a failure, because I'll never have access to that platform again. It'll be very unlikely. However, as men, we can continue to build. We can continue to grow. We continue to add interests and hobbies and skill sets around what we built early in our life that can diversify what we do, just make what, especially if you're in content, right? Like on our podcast, we try to talk about not just diet and exercise. We talk about movies, TV shows, sports. I'll talk about business, just current events and stuff like that. Because again, that's also what I've noticed so much the last 20 years in fitness is that I don't have a lot of friends in fitness because all they fucking want to talk about is fitness. It's like the CrossFit friend.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, we get it.
It's annoying. Yeah.
You're hardcore. You're the best. You're a hero, okay? I don't want to fucking hear about how sore your quads are. So, that's one thing too. We just become so one-dimensional. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say is like, if most men were told, look, like, try to be like George Clooney. All right? Like, he just got better 30s, 40s, 50s. Now he's got tequila brands. He's just fucking hanging out, doing things whenever he wants. He went up the hard way, man. He was like a guest actor on Roseanne back in the day.
Oh, shit.
So, I've always gone the long-term approach with this. And like you said, too, with women are held to even, because I did some work with women's health, too, and I knew a lot of women coming up around the same time that try to do what we do on their end. And dude, like the number of women that, like, most women in fitness do not have their period.
Wow.
Like, I mean, if women have different body fat distributions, that they'll be a little more, they can get leaner upper body and abs typically than men. Men hold more belly, love handle. Women tend to hold more hip thigh. But anytime you see a woman with a full set of rack, okay, and then ripped abs, I mean, that's someone that has gotten enhancements and or they're not even having a natural menstrual cycle.
Why is that? You think because they're on something or because they don't have enough fat?
Body fat and calories. You
not enough estrogen.
Yeah, you can't. They just can't have your period.
Oh shit.
I mean, does that sound healthy for a woman that
totally
is menopausal to not get their period? So again, but that's what they're pushed to, because women in particular are looked at as damaged goods after like 35.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because some of the women now in the 50s, how good they look, like because of diet, exercise. And yeah, you got to groom, you got to take care of yourself, but good supplementation, good nutrition and regular exercise, good sleep, taking care of your skin, avoiding too much sun. Like you can look really great in your 50s and 60s. We're seeing it now. But women are still held to just a ridiculous double standard, like it's okay if men have some grays, like women are pushed to always, not look their age. And it's sad, but it is unfortunately the reality.
Yeah, it is. It is sad in a lot of ways. It's like there's trades off though in both cases. And I guess this is more of like an opinion, but you look at women have it so much easier in a lot of ways because all they have to do is like post a picture on Instagram and they get 1 million likes and they have 1 million followers. Whereas a regular guy goes on Instagram, posts a picture of himself, gets like 2 likes from his friends and no comments, no followers. And, this same woman can go out and get on a yacht just by looking pretty. This guy has to work 25 years to have money to potentially even have, be able to buy a yacht. So, there's trades off in both ways, but I absolutely understand that when it comes to looks and it comes to standards of beauty, women are put on a much different level. And like you said, by the age of 35, they're already considered damaged goods or worn out goods. And it's like, that sucks because there's so many beautiful women, even in their 40s and 50s, where they don't get a second look from a guy just because they tend to be a little older.
Yeah, no, I talk with my wife a lot of times about this because she's a year younger than me, and we actually met in college. We've been together since college. So we've been off the dating scene for 2 decades.
Wow.
I cannot imagine, like my little brother, he's 28 and he's gay and he has to go on all these different apps and like he's dealing with, you know this.
Yeah.
Men are scum.
Oh yeah.
Like the messages from other men, like, because we're direct, we're not looking to get like men experience here. It's like, this is what we want to do and this is how it's going to be. So I can't imagine navigating online dating apps and
it's wild, dude. I'm still in the dating game now. It's crazy.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, and it's funny because I've had like 3 or 4 long-term relationships since I, you know, was about so since I was like an active young man dating, I probably had 3 or 4 long-term relationships. So I've been out of it, in and out of it for a few years, like a break for a year and then whatever break for 2 years. I'm back into it now for like the last year, and it's like a totally different ball game than when it was like 10 years ago. I mean, it's just totally different. The women, you go on these dates, they're just so different, and it varies too. It's not like they're all the same, but the variance of them is so different than it was a long time ago. And it's like the way you even text women, the way they communicate back, the way they text you back, the topics that they talk about, especially the younger generation. Like if I go with a girl on a date who's a little younger than me, like early 20s or so, the topics of conversation that you would talk about are like night and day than if I went on a date with somebody who's closer to my age, like in their 30s. It's just like it's almost like a different creature of like a different species of people. It's funny though.
How often are people in the physical as similar as they've represented online? That's like, I'm
Oh
not saying
yeah.
it's a catfish, but I mean, like, people are picking the right angle.
Well,
It's
yeah. Yeah.
Instagram, but dating.
Yeah, you get better at discerning the likelihood of a catfish the more you do it. And so, like, if you look at pictures, if they don't have any full body pictures, that's a catfish. She's probably a very big girl. Uh, you look at if there's nothing but filters on all the pictures, there's a reason why every single one of those has to be filtered out and they have to make them look pretty. She's probably not that good looking. So, most of the time, at least with me, I'm I've gotten pretty good at picking the ones who are probably authentic, and then most of the time I go out 9 times out of 10, they're pretty much who they look like they're online. But I think a lot of guys who aren't really as keen to it probably do get fooled because a lot of these women do have a lot of deceptive and misleading type of photos on there. So, but I'm very selective, you know what I mean? Like I'm pretty picky nowadays, especially as I get older. I don't want to waste my time. I have a lot of things going on. So I have to have a connection and I have to really, be pretty sure that who I'm going out with is going to be worth my time.
I mean, I'm sure you're having a great time,
Yeah.
but I don't envy having to
No, it's true,
that
man.
process. I mean,
It's
it seems like, I don't know, it seems kind of it seems tough. That's all I can
yeah.
say.
And I was in a relationship a year ago with this great girl, and it was, but the grass is always greener too. So you're in a relationship, and it's like, I wish I was single again. I see my boys going out and hooking up with girls, and then when you're doing that, the hookup thing, it's like, I kind of miss just being with a great girl again and just chilling at home and being with her. So it's like, at least with me, and I think for a lot of guys, it's been a trade off of certain things, and it's fun to be back out there again on one hand, but it's also like, it would be nice to settle down and have a family in the next couple of years as well, like, and actually, become a man. Like you said, you hit 40 and you actually feel like you have all these things. And in the same token too, like when you were 40, you went through like a midlife crisis because, some of these things are probably hitting you in a weird way where you had like all these younger guy type of things going on before. And then all of a sudden you hit the age of 40 and it's like your perspective on things change. So I think
And
it's a constant learning and it's a constant battle in a sense of figuring out, what makes you happy.
no, it is, and that's part of it too. Is again, like I look at it like a battery. Like the battery just doesn't fill up. Like it goes only to like 90% now, and it drains faster, just like an iPhone.
Yeah.
That's how I really look at age, because there are some, I can still do so much. I do get tired a lot faster. Got to get to bed a lot earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly recovering. I'm always in the Normatex. I've always got some sort of heating pad on. But I take it seriously because it's my job. Like I approach my body, and that's a big part of it is mindset. One thing to talk about, like when you're young, we damage our bodies.
Yeah.
Why do we do that? Why do we hurt it? Why do we try to push it so hard? I'm at the age now where it's pure pampering. I do mostly practice and some training, meaning I'm constantly throughout the day. I call it EHO. Every hour on the hour, I do at least a minute of some strength or mobility work. And even if I can't get to a full workout at the end of a workday, I'll have done at least 10 minutes, typically 20, because I'll do a couple minutes every hour of stuff that makes me feel better, energizes me throughout the day. And once you get to 40, man, if you've been training like we have since 14, like, dude, I mean, we put in the reps. Now it's just about fine tuning form and technique, tweaking things, just marginal small improvements. Like you now have full mind muscle connections all over your body. Like you really know how to move properly. And, you know, so it just, just that mindset, like how would a pro athlete treat their body? Well, they'd invest in massage. They'd invest in recovery modalities. They try to find a way to get access to a sauna or water. Like we worked our whole life to have access to the pool, and the pool allows me to do the most intense workouts without any cost to my joints. Yeah. And just being in the water is a recovery element. It compresses your body. It squeezes out inflammation. It really is therapeutic for the joints. This is stuff that I wish I was taught when I was younger. Just like, don't worry about necessarily how much money you're going to make, but like, do find a way to like have a pool, you know, because like there's going to be days when your back hurts and you can't really do anything, but when you can get in the pool and you can find a way. You know, I guess it's a long way of saying, until you've experienced pain, you will absolutely take your body for granted. And one thing I was very lucky with is I grew up in an alcoholic household, so I've never drank an alcohol whatsoever.
Nice.
And I didn't fuck with any drugs until like 36. I tried weed, and weed transformed my life.
In a good way or no?
I'm sorry?
In a good or bad way?
In a great way.
Okay.
You can overdo it. Like
Yeah.
There was a point where I was taking it all day, and like, dude, I'd be working all day, but I couldn't get anything done. I was like, what is, because again, no one really, I was learning from scratch. Like I was like a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
36, you know, but it really opened up my mind. It taught me how to relax. It allowed me to break into meditation in a way that I couldn't previously, because I was so wound tight and tensed and high strung. Like your heart rate's up here all day.
Yeah.
Like I was in fight or flight mode for the first 35 years of my life. A lot of it stemmed from how I grew up and the goals I set for myself to just get the fuck out of my house. But I had no coping strategies for my emotions and my mood and stress. And a lot of men are like that. We are at our worst before 35 because we're not taught how to handle stress the right way. We have no coping mechanisms besides to go fucking beast mode and rage. And as a result, push all the people we love around us away. So that was a big part. Weed allowed me just to fucking chill the fuck out. And I mean, it allowed my mind to go to places creatively I've never experienced. Like it basically connected a bridge I never had, or that maybe was going away as I was getting older. But I cycle it. Like I'm not the type of guy that I'm not taking weed all day. And what I try to do is a couple times a week. It's like you approach, you know, creatine, right? You can cycle things on and off, and I just think it's a smart way to approach it because you can keep your tolerance low, save money in that process, not become as dependent on it. Though I never felt addictive qualities with it. It's just life is more fun on cannabis, but I have so much other shit to do, and really, my appetite is out of control. Actually, we started taking something called Delta 8, which gives you like creative flow Zen state type of feels, but it doesn't elevate your appetite as much, which has been great because, you know, for me, if I take like indica in particular, I can have like a 10,000 calorie day that can just sabotage my whole week.
Yeah. You got to be careful with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can still like, dude, I can still eat like a motherfucker. Not like I used to.
Yeah.
Like I used to be able to do like, because I didn't drink, we would do food crawls instead of bar crawls. I would just go from like restaurant to restaurant, the best dessert shop for chocolate mousse, the pizza shop, then we go get burritos. Like this was a single afternoon.
Wow.
But you know, I would starve for the 6 days before, you know, because the cheat meal, I was in college when the cheat meal as we know it was invented or became like the thing. So now everybody talks about it, but like 2002, 2003, that was like the start of the cheat meal as we know it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember reading about that as a younger lifter, probably 16, 18, something like that. started getting into magazines and stuff, and some of these guys started putting it in. It's like, a good day to not only give yourself a break, but then get yourself those extra calories, and you can actually and end up bulking up through that, etc. But no, that's cool, man. And yeah, there's a lot of people like weed's one of those things. It's for a lot of people it's medicinal. A lot of people it's beneficial. It's almost like too, another thing is the psychedelics, or people are microdosing now, the psilocybin and stuff like that. And I interviewed a guy a few years ago too. You probably haven't heard of him, but Dr. Ted Achacoso. He's one of the smartest guys in the world. His IQ is actually, it ranges between 190 to 210, like super, super genius. But he was on one of the podcasts I did. It was like a 3-hour podcast, and he had microdosed LSD. So here's one of the smartest men in the world, and he's literally on the podcast for 3 hours, like giggling and laughing, but he's also like super dialed in, and his creative side is just flowing. It was an incredible podcast, crazy, super informative, and just interesting podcast. But yeah, there's a lot of people that can see a lot of benefit, especially if you do it in the right way. And weed is relatively harmless, even if you do it in the wrong way. But especially if you do it in the right way, you get the benefits from it, get the creative side, get the other perks from it, and it doesn't interfere with your other exploits into improving your health and fitness. It's definitely a good thing.
I mean, yeah, most people know, like, obviously sativa tends to get more of a head high, more creativity, and indica more body.
Yeah.
Also more hunger, more relaxation. But what's interesting, like, so if I'm doing, I like sativa for, like, I'll treat myself to like a sativa strain or the Delta 8 for like movement exploration. Like, because you can totally get in flow state. Like, this is one recommendation I have for men. You've been training a long time and you don't know what to do. I have an hourglass, I just flip it. And I just fill the hour with whatever I feel called to do. I'll start maybe exploring the pull-up bar, some hangs. I'll move to some planking or push-ups, maybe some lunging, and then maybe I'll go into the pool. And it gives you a nice, because, one thing I look back on, like, how much time did I waste of my life, this short life, on a seated calf raise machine, trying to grow my fucking baby calves. The only thing that happened was they got higher and tighter.
Yeah, you can't really grow them.
Exactly right. Like, no one. Here's the truth. You can't change how you look. You can make yourself look better with what you've been given, but no one really dramatically changes the way they look, nor can they maintain that change, right? Because the amount of effort it takes, all encompassing, holistically, unless it's your job, it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But an hourglass workout, it gives you a nice appreciation for, like, you look over and like, okay, there's still some sand left in the glass. Could this time be better suited? Do I have maybe some more work to do? Or maybe should I give more time to my wife, my kids, my husband, my dog? It's a nice relationship to work. But on weed, though, like, for me, because I do fitness, dude, I do it all day. I have to do it all day. This whole morning I filmed. Then I had to get a quick walk in before I came back to do this podcast with you. Then I'm going to have to do some more training later in the day here. So it gets very routine. And it used to be like, the danger of taking what you love and making it your job is you've lost it. You've lost it.
Yeah.
It's no longer, it can remain a passion in some ways, but it's no longer what you look forward to doing.
Yeah.
Now I look forward to doing is laying down and watching TV. So, that's why I talk about on the podcast, because, like, at least I can do some content about this. But yeah, I'm doing recovery. I can stretch and watch TV. I call it Netflix and stretch. But ultimately, the sativa, I come up with new movements, new ways to approach the exercise. When I go on indica, it's great for stretching and massage because muscles just melt and it takes all this tension out of your body. So what would take maybe 5 or 10 minutes working on like a deep squat, in the first minute or two, especially when you do it in water, like a hot tub or a pool that is not like too deep, or if you could do it in a sauna, or you could do it with the wearable vibrating heating pads on certain joints. Like, I can get what took 5 to 10 minutes in a minute because the muscles just melt. So, and I would take more indica later, like after dinner or late afternoon. I would be more sativa kind of midday, afternoon. And I would never take it my first time on a podcast, but if I come back on, maybe I'll take it coming back on if you're going to want me back. But I've done like 3-hour plus Joe Rogan style podcasts on other episodes. And they're friends of mine I know too, like, you know, I know what to expect.
Yeah.
So I'll take it, and the conversation is just free flowing. It's fun. And then sometimes I go hybrid blend because, you know, you get kind of a mix of both.
Yeah.
But I would never take it in a maximal strength setting, just because it does relax you, even sativa. So, you know, like a peak competitive situation, caffeine, or maybe some beta alanine, a little creatine, maybe some essential amino acids, but normal practice, normal daily movement, that's how I've kind of used it. And the last 3 or 4 years, it's really helped improve my mobility, the breathing, because most men are mouth breathers. We don't know how to breathe. We never taught. And you can really start to connect your diaphragm in a way that will allow you to sleep better, go harder for longer, in and out of the gym, in and out of the bedroom. I mean, it really is. It's a fascinating, but I'm glad I waited. Can you imagine, like, well, I mean, maybe you did, but my reptilian brain at 18 on weed, I would not be alive.
Yeah. I mean, you're a totally different person at that age. It's literally like you're somebody else at that age. Like I look back even when I was 18, 15, 16, 21, it's like I remember a lot of the things I used to do, but I can't actually like feel those things like I did them. You know what I mean? It's like I'm looking at somebody else who did them, although I do remember doing them. It's wild, man.
Yeah, no, I like to. It's funny because sometimes I get a memory and I'm like, I just want to throw up. Something I said, something I did. I'm just like, wow, I hate that person.
Yeah.
But he's still here. He's along for the ride.
Yeah.
When I was a fat 14-year-old, I could never imagine being on the fucking cover of Men's Health.
Yeah.
And that's part of it too. Is I think as men, some men they never change. They're like Al Bundy, living on their high school prime.
4 touchdowns, poke high.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, bro, I don't want to watch your fucking highlight tape again. Okay. But a lot of us, we run away from our past, or we're literally and rightfully in some cases ashamed of some of the stuff we said that was cool in the 80s and 90s, that is no longer cool, that maybe was more of a product of the environment we grew up in than was actually our native thoughts. But we're just older kids.
Yeah.
There's no fucking blueprint for this.
Yeah. It's funny you say that though, because like I said a minute ago, as much as I don't see myself as like a different person, sometimes I do feel like though I am the same person I was when I was a kid and like, a middle school kid. I'm like, I really am still the same guy. I just know a lot more shit now, and I don't do a lot of the stupid shit I used to do before, like a lot of the mistakes. I learned from the mistakes I used to make, and I feel like I'm much more mature and grounded and can like have a better foresight into taking the right actions. But at the same time, it's like, I do feel like I'm still the same young kid, just in a grown man's body sometimes, as much as it might not be the right thing to say, but I think a lot of people feel that way as well.
Well, so that's a really key point, because especially since the pandemic, things have gotten so fucking serious.
Yeah.
Everything is so serious.
Yeah.
And I was known for a long time as being kind of a funny guy in fitness, or someone that at least didn't take themselves too seriously. And the pandemic and the mental health issues I was struggling with, I took some medication for about a year, which basically it completely eliminated my personality.
Yeah.
I felt nothing for 1 year.
Wow. That's awful.
It was crazy, dude. But it may have been helpful in the sense that it allowed me to kind of recalibrate and restart, like life 2.0, if you will. I would never take it again, but and for some people it really does help. And but anyway, you've got to fight for that youthful energy. There's 2 things that have been critical for me, just to remember not to be so serious, just to like be present and have fun. One, I think it's a pet, but specifically a dog. And she's waiting. Like the moment I start kind of doing my afternoon stretch, she knows that, because we play in the pool. She jumps in, she He'll
Nice.
chase me, like we do tug of war. I really have a great time together. And I'm a kid with her. If I didn't
Yeah.
have that dog in the house, it'd be business all day.
Yeah. Too
And
serious all the time.
exactly, yeah. And that's part of it too, is because I don't have as much energy as I used to. And I used to love making people laugh and like making people smile. But now, like, I look at my to-do list when I wake up in the morning, I could just cry some days. I just want to fucking cry because I don't know
Yeah.
how I'm going to get it all done, and I have to get it done, or at least do my best. So, that's why it is like weed does help me with that. Like my wife and I just get super goofy. It's like we were in college, and I'm not advocating like, though I do think if you've studied history, all winners have taken drugs.
Is that true, huh?
And I mean, like they at least do fucking cigars.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all your idols and heroes growing up, or like for the youth today, like they're all taking some form of drug. I mean, they're probably drinking coffee.
Well, yeah,
Drug.
even alcohol, it's the same.
Yeah.
It is a
So, I
drug.
mean, exactly. It's a part of life. It has to be cycled. It has to be rationed and portioned, and it's not the same for everyone because some people they can't have some of those substances. They can never have, right? And that's why it's so sad. People that struggle with food, and I know this firsthand. It's like you don't have a choice. You got to eat.
Yeah.
You've got to eat, and it's expensive and really hard to eat healthy. Like you got to be a fucking baller to eat organic,
Yeah.
protein, produce, whole food diet. Like it's not possible. I go to Aldi, bro, and I can drop over. It's hard to keep it under $100 at Aldi.
Yeah. Dude, seriously.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like I try to because when I make food recommendations, I want to make sure that any man can get involved. And I'll go to Whole Foods maybe once a week, but I limit myself to the one basket. A small basket. Like I never use a fucking cart at Whole Foods because
Yeah.
I have to launch another product.
Yeah. It's true. You go to the grocery store now, you go to Market Basket, even Walmart, they get some fairly cheap groceries there. You get a handful of things, you're at $100 easily now. With this crazy economy and inflation and stuff, man, it's tough. It's tough. And I just for people who don't make a ton of money, I can only imagine how much more they're struggling compared to people who are doing well. And it's still tough to do. Like it's still tough to, go to the store, not spend half your paycheck on getting a bunch of, basic things to eat for the week. But I wanted to go back for a moment and just ask you what it is that you felt that you did during the pandemic when you were going through all that stuff to kind of recalibrate you back when you were going through like your hardest times. I know you mentioned a moment ago you were on some medication for about a year, but like maybe coming after that medication, what was it that recalibrated in your mind when you hit that midlife crisis to get yourself back to be like, all right, I'm still a great man. I got this second half of my life to look forward to. I got this to do. I got this to do. I got all these things in my life and so many gifts and things I should be grateful for. What was some of the things that you did mentally or even, on a day-to-day basis that allowed you to get past that really crippling time in your life?
So, I mean, I was on the Jeremy Scott Fitness podcast. It's called BJ Gaddour Raw and Uncut. And it's not my sex tape, though. It would be a good name for a sex tape. And it's a 3-hour episode where I go into it in a real heavy way. The short version of that really is I used the pursuit of, like, without getting into too much detail, grew up in just a brutally dysfunctional, abusive home. And I kind of got on this mission through both academics and athletics to just like make something of myself, get the fuck out of my home, get the fuck out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and just have a new life away from all of that, just so I could put that all behind me. And then I had, it was football and school. And then after college, it was fitness, both, my body and my business. And then I achieved like the pinnacle of that, which was men's health. Like I'm a men's health guy. There's nothing else I can do after this within fitness. Like this was the platform. That we all started reading the magazine. It was on the toilet, like next to, our dad had it, and so, and then leaving them, and I left them in not a great way. Like it was a burned bridge scenario. We both were at fault. Um, and to all of our credit, it was a dying business at the same time. It was a toxic work environment. So, no one was at their best. And those like 2015, 2017, that was my 2 years there. The previous 8 years, I was a consultant, which was probably the best role. I could come in, be a star, and then go home for 3 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the day-to-day with people that I really struggle with.
Yeah.
And I think I've got, again, we are the deck of cards we've been given. My combination of my mom and dad is some mix of bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder. And also they have they were abused physically, emotionally. It just passed down. Like, it just passed down. And that's part of why I have not had kids yet, and most likely will not, is I do not want to pass this along, because it's in there. And after achieving the pinnacle of my career, and then we kind of moved to California, achieved our dreams. Like, I had no more goals. And I kind of, like, for the first time in my life, I found weed. I started to relax. And all of a sudden, the past 35 fucking years just hit me so hard. And I didn't know what to do, man. There was like, I'd be crying for like 5 straight hours.
Wow.
And I would go in and this is the one thing too, like where you got to be careful with weed, and you got to limit meditation, because sometimes you can like break from reality. Like 20 minutes is a good cutoff time to meditate, especially if you're on something, because like I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop thinking about how I grew up, and the fact that I have no relationship with my mom or my dad, that both my brother and I, like, every Mother's Day, Father's Day holiday, there's nothing for us except each other. So, that all hit me. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, now I'm old. I'm old for my space. People get upset with me sometimes when I talk about this, because, they're 50 and they're like, you're old. Fuck you. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I may not be a traditional professional athlete, but I make a living through my body. So it hits you at 40, like, because you just start waking up with a sore back. And you see what these guys in their 20s are doing, and they have like twice the energy, and they have all that young motivation of like, I want to be the man. I want to get people to give me praise. Like, that doesn't do anything for me anymore. So now it's like I had to reinvent my motivation. So it was a lot of that. I finally pressed pause, and I got out of this just like constant pushing for success. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, you can run from your past. At some point, it's going to catch you. I think it caught a lot of people during the pandemic, because we were at home. We had a lot of introspection, self-reflection, and it took a couple years to really, to the point where like I had a plan in place to take my own life.
Wow. Oh shit.
Seriously, man. Like, and that's where, and luckily, the day that I was thinking about doing that, I was sober. Because that's a situation where you see people, like, even under the slightest of influence, you make one bad decision you can't come back from. And this happens. So, and that's why it's really important to be careful with what you put in your body, and to not make any crazy decisions when you're hungry, tired, angry, stressed. So part of what I had to do too, I realized too, like, I had some, as much as I've tried to take a longevity approach in my career, there was some wear and tear in my body that required me to basically rebuild my body from ground zero. And I had to be disciplined enough to, like, not even pick up anything heavier than a 25-pound pair of dumbbells. That was tough for me. Like, I had to see myself shrink a little bit to fix some imbalances and heal some joints. And I'm 3 years into what I'm calling this indefinite rebuild. And it's the first time in my life where I'm not allowing my ego to affect my fitness decisions. Like, no, like, you're not ready for that yet. Because if it's causing pain, it's just going to hurt you even more in the long term. So, but part of that too was business was struggling. Like, I thought, because I'm in home fitness, it should have been like, no, people were at home. They didn't want to fucking do workouts at home. I had one of the worst 2-year runs ever in my fitness business. So again, it was a perfect storm. Approaching 40, 5 finally like encountering or facing my past. I also think, oh, well, there's the biggest thing that happened. My brain chemistry changed the day my dog died. He just died in the next room. I fed him. I came into the living room. I came back. He was gone, and he was my best friend.
Damn, that
And
sucks.
thank you. And it's taken me a couple of years to even talk about it without fucking.
Yeah, it's tough,
The whole
man.
day
I'm
is
sorry.
the whole day is gone. But like something that day, like something happened to my brain. It took me a couple of years to recover from the shock of it. Like my wife and I were in the other room joking, having fun, and we came to check on him in his bed, and he was gone. So that was a triggering event, and I think that stress event did something to my brain that took me a couple of years to recover from. So beyond the fact, like this investment, this rebuild was going to take me 3 to 5 years, and we live in this instant gratification culture where like, no, I've got to look my best now, you know, like, so it was a complete restart. But the beauty of it was I took all the knowledge I've gained in the fitness industry, and I've rebuilt my body. Like I fixed alignment issues. I'm doing things with my knees I could never do before when I was young. Like they used to crack and click. I was at a point I was so imbalanced I could deadlift 500 pounds. I couldn't do a body weight lunge.
Wow.
I could bench press 400 pounds. I couldn't do a pull up. Like there were so many imbalances in the way I treated from upper to lower or front to back or side to side. And I have an engineer's mind. My dad became an engineer, and I have that, and I apply that to the way I build fitness programs, you know, and that's one of my gifts. I can, for both you, me, anyone, I can show you how to go from ground zero to superhero because I know how to connect all the dots in between systemically so that you're not overwhelmed or it's not too much of a reach. And, but it's been tough, man. It's been humbling, you know, because I'm trying to get back to the level I was when I was at Men's Health, and I don't have the same firepower. So I guess, you know, the other side of it is I start to look at things now more as just like a point system. Like there's 5 or 10 things that if I just check off every single day, there's going to be good days and bad days. I know in 5 or 10 years, the needle is going, you know, it's being pushed in the right direction. And I start to look at things more, because this happens as we go through too. We become more risk averse. We start to think more 5 to 10 plus years from now. And that's how I approach content. I just like, if I make a YouTube video, I know it can live forever. If it doesn't, sometimes it hurts when you put 3 months into a video and only 1,000 people see it.
Yeah.
And it's worthy, like it's legitimately worthy of going viral. You see what else goes viral.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll see like, dude, this content doesn't even touch what I just put out here.
Yeah.
But it'll live forever. And it's like it's like basically that push-up video is just a savings bond I put out that is going to just trickle for the next 20 or 30 years. And I try to look at my content now in that mindset, because if you go in like trying to go viral every day or trying to do that type of thing, dude, it's miserable, man, because you're also fighting a god. The algorithm, it's a god. I don't make decisions.
Yeah.
It controls that world. So we're slaves to the algorithm. You know, like you see the new Space Jam?
No, I didn't see that one with LeBron now.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously LeBron is a polarizing figure, and if you were an MJ fan, like you're always going to team MJ. But the whole premise of the movie was like the villain was his name was Algorithm.
Yeah.
And that really is like today's villain, man, across all outlets.
Yeah.
All we do every day, we try to wake up and we try to fight the algorithm or try to figure it out. And it changes every day, or at least every month. And every platform has a slightly different algorithm, and they're fighting each other. They're like the digital oligarchs. It's kind of dude, it's sick. Like it's a sick world. Like the moment I don't have to make any more money, you'll never fucking see me again. Because I have no interest in it. Just you wake up, you got to collect the coins.
Yeah, I agree.
And you got to keep going.
There's a part of me that likes, and I've said this lately to a couple friends, but like, I think like I'm the last generation, you're the last generation of having as much as we've gotten from, this internet world, internet marketing, being able to make a ton of money online and living at home and doing, whatever, it's incredible. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely amazing. But I feel like we're the last generation of how the world was at its best. We're like, we weren't so consumed with technology. We weren't so obsessed with our phones. We could actually go out and have fun in person a lot more. Whereas I have a bunch of nephews, nieces, oldest one's 15 to like 7, 8 years old. They just don't understand how like reality was 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even, where like we weren't so obsessive with technology and weren't beholden to all these oligarchs, the AI algorithm oligarchs of the world, and so obsessed with views and clicks and likes and all these things. We actually lived in reality of what was in front of us. And I think a lot of people had a lot better outlook on life because of that. I think a lot more people are happier because we weren't so obsessed with this technology thing. And I think from this point forward, as much as we're trying to stop the beast, even Elon Musk has said it, like eventually it's going to take over. As much as we're trying to stop it in so many ways, eventually it's going to get to a point where it's just all encompassing and consuming. And it's kind of a crazy place to look at it, where I think at least we had the benefit of seeing how the world was before all this stuff, where anybody else from like, born from like 2000 and beyond just doesn't understand how things really are, how they're probably ideally supposed to be.
I mean, it's a great point, and like even now, like we're soft as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, so when we were talking about the mental health piece, I had 2 therapy sessions. On the second one, I had a moment where I was talking to this guy. I'm like, when did I become? And I don't mean this misogynistically. When did I become such a baby back bitch? I'm here fucking whining and complaining about how tough my life is to a total stranger. I've got a fucking pool in the backyard. I live in Palm Springs, California. I don't have to leave my house and I can make a living. I could spend as much time as I want with my dog and my wife. And then I think about like my dad. He had to take care of his family since he was 10 years old in a slum in North Africa. He's from Tunisia, came to this country, didn't know the language, started as a cable guy, built up to a successful engineer. And I'm fucking out here whining and complaining to this guy I don't even know about my problems. And again, I think therapy is super beneficial to a lot of people. I've always been the type of person, I'm more of a self-help guy. For me, it's here. I have to decide to make a fucking choice to make a change. And until I'm ready for that moment, no one around me can affect it. I'm too stubborn. Stubbornness goes both ways. It allows you to keep going against all adversity and develop a level of resilience and character that few can. It also makes you just like such a fucking idiot. They're literally trying to give you the cheat code, but you won't fucking listen because you think you know better. And so there's that battle too, but it's like, no, our generation, we're soft. We are soft. Things are just so good now. Groceries, they can come right to your door. Movies, same day release at home. Yeah. Okay, like we don't have to do shit. So it's not all our fault, but one thing I learned at Men's Health, because I was an older person at Men's Health at 35, they had a lot of people in their 20s, and like, dude, I'm an elder millennial, so we were told like, expect the best. Right? These motherfuckers, they demand the best. I mean, they come in at 21, no work under their belt, they're asking for a promotion, or they think they're on your level. So yeah, no, it's hurt. America is at a real turning point with our workforce.
Yeah,
because people are, I don't know how they're surviving. They're what they call the quiet quitting. People just like stop showing up to work. But we definitely are not. We don't have the grit that our parents did, or even people slightly younger. We've got to rebuild that from the ground up, and we've got to. And it's just hard because we don't have the same. Like life is just too easy now. Like life was. I mean, the amount of stuff like just to do anything big in the 80s and 90s took a great effort. Pre-internet, like how did people do it?
Yeah,
it was hard, and that's not even going back to like, I mean, World War I, World War II, like that. Those generations, all they knew was conflict, depression. So yeah, no, we're in a tough spot. And what's crazy too, we talked about like, because my audience is like yours, like 80% men, mostly 35 to 44, and then the other big demos are just above and below. And dude, they're struggling. They used to be really interested in fitness, and what happens when life hits you hard, you get stressed out. Like, you know, it really is a luxury. Fitness. I mean, I know it's necessary, but it is a luxury. Not everybody has the time, energy, or resources to invest in it. But men need a physical outlet, because if they don't have it, they self-destruct, and nothing's more dangerous than a bunch of men out there in a self-destructive mode. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to kind of come together and restart and connect in a way. And I think fitness is a nice way to do it. You know, sport and athletics are great. But it's tough to find other outlets, man, because even like, you can't talk about politics, you can't talk about religion. What can we talk about without it getting too divisive? You know, and that's one thing I've always loved about fitness. And even fitness has its, like, you know, has its the CrossFit, the powerlifters, bodybuilders, you know, the influencers, the, you know, calisthenics, you know, so there's camps in almost every kind of interest. But if we don't have a physical outlet, man, men are already dangerous.
Yeah.
And like, so that's one thing that does concern me moving forward, is that, you know, because I know, like, the stuff that I share now, it's not as big of interest to them. They don't really care as much. I don't really know. I don't know what is going on, honestly.
Yeah.
That's been a part of it too, is stuff that used to kill with my audience. Crickets. You know, and this happens too. Like, I mean, meaning like, I think I have a fitness audience, but they've lost interest in fitness, so it makes it tough. You know what I mean? Like, it makes it tough to figure out what to do. And, you know, I know they need more motivation, but it's hard to motivate people when you're trying to motivate yourself.
Yeah.
And saying, like, I almost feel like a fraud. Like, I can't go out here and like say, suck it up, man, get the workout in, because like I'm struggling to get the workout in today. And then you don't want to be too real, because I think that's part of the problem too, is like, do we have to fucking share everything about our life? Can I just give you a great product and service? You don't have to know what I do at home. Do you have to? You know, and I think we all have overshared. We've been forced to the last couple of years to speak on things that maybe we shouldn't speak about, or that maybe we're not the right person to speak about, but feel the peer pressure to speak about. So anyway, dude, it's like we are truly, like, at the same time, we're on the verge of the robots taking over. ChatGPT, obviously, like, I don't know if you've done it, but if you started using it, but I put in, like, make me a 20-minute BJ Gaddour style workout. Within a second, this motherfucker, he put out something that the average fitness person would be like, oh, okay, cool. This is like, it would have taken me 15 minutes to type this out.
Wow.
It had full warm-up, exercise list, work to rest, sets and reps, cool down.
That's wild.
No grammatical errors. Now, the intelligent fitness consumer, which there are very few, okay, I'm just telling you right now, I do this.
Yeah.
Not very savvy out there. They're better than they used to be, for sure. But that would be a passable thing. And that's a free thing that a robot spit out in a second. It would have taken me 20 minutes just to type out what it spit out, beyond thinking about the actual workout or being it to my standards.
Yeah.
And that's not to mention, you know, the fact that they can deep fake us. They're going to be able to just take videos of me, because that's what it did. It literally looked all over the internet for everything I've ever posted, and then took that and said, this is the most representative of a 20-minute workout from this guy. All platforms. And then eventually they can represent you digitally. So it's interesting. We're at a place where, like, and we just watched Terminator the other night. What a great fucking movie, by the way.
Yeah. Way ahead of its time, too. Shit.
Oh, man. Perfect movie. And Terminator 2 was also amazing. But that first Terminator, man, like, so long ago. But, you know, movies tend to give you a glimpse into the future. So we are living in maybe one of the most interesting times in the history of the world. Yeah. It'll be in the history textbooks for hundreds of years to come, if we're still around and we don't have to go to another planet. They'll be talking about this time too. So we can't take that for granted. It's not all bad, you know, and then that's what we're also fighting every day, is because the news and what pulls now is, I just saw the other day, my friend, he's huge on YouTube and he's like a scientist about it. And um, things that versus someone smiling versus someone being sad or angry, you get 10 times the engagement on the angry, sad versus the happy, enthusiastic on a YouTube thumbnail. Just
Wow.
tells you the mental state of the consumer right now.
Yeah.
So, but if you want to get views and you want your content to get seen and you want to be in business, you got to like play the fucking game. So, man, I could talk about this forever, but we are living. We can't lose sight of the fact that we are living. We are blessed to be alive today. There will be, and this is a critical period in the history of the world, where now technology has accelerated to the point where we are entering the beginning of the AI era, and you know probably more than I do what's going to happen next. I have no fucking idea. It's going to be very interesting.
It is. It's some scary times for sure. But I think there is still hope, and I'm actually glad to be alive right now because I still think we have, a few decades before it really hits the fan. And the decades we've already had, and appreciate, that were really great times. But maybe there's a way to save it. I don't know. Maybe there's some genius like Elon Musk and some of these other guys who seem to be pretty good and seem to want to have a good outlook on life, and also seem to be smart enough to possibly come up with some solution to fix things and maybe redirect the ship. But I don't know. It's wild. If I don't want to sound pessimistic, but right now it doesn't really look good for the human race in like 50 years. I don't know where we're going to be at because I've just seen how quickly things have devolved in the last decade or two, and they're like super, super fast in just a short amount of period of time. And that's only with a little bit of this technology hitting our lives. Like imagine what it was like from say 1900 to 2000, we devolved in the last 10 years compared to 100 years. Imagine just 10, 20, 30 years from now, how much more of a, degrading of society and our morals and the way we approach things that it could be if again, if things aren't righted. But, who knows? I hope and I wish for the best. So we'll see.
I think across the board, and again, it's like this fucking fitness guy won't shut the fuck up, but we no longer have a base. Like people
Yeah.
out there trying to do push-ups and they can't plank.
Yeah.
And they're trying to squat heavy, they can't even balance on one leg.
Yeah.
And in the same case, we're all living in this fake digital world, and we have no roots in reality. You know what I'm saying? Everything's fake around us. So that's part of like everything feels so existential. Everything feels like it's not real. And then you tend to not care as much. And you just kind of like, again, overall, it doesn't feel like we're as invested as we used to be. We certainly don't have the same collective mindset. We're all individuals.
Yeah.
Dude, I go into the sauna now, and I'm just waiting for like hidden cameras to come out one of these days, because the shit that happens in this public sauna, people taking 20-minute phone calls. This one guy just like, he went on a 20 burp binge, just burping. This is a sanctuary. First of all, it's an echo chamber,
Yeah.
right? And it's an enclosed space that's very hot. You can't be farting, burping,
Yeah.
or queefing in the sauna. Okay, you can't be doing that. But people are bringing phone calls in. They're on their phone, browsing social media at full volume. Like this is a place to relax. But people are literally living individually in this life. We're completely disconnected from each other as a society. But it's crazy. I did this episode on sauna etiquette, the 10 rules of how to be a good man in a sauna. And because again, like I just cannot believe some of the shit that like this doesn't happen in other countries in the sauna, by the way. Like it's a sanctuary. You go in and you sweat and you think and you breathe.
Yeah.
And you kind of like get in touch with yourself, and the shit that I've been seeing going to, like, just, I don't know, man, it blows my mind.
Oh, yeah.
But it like, in the same reason people don't put on their turn signal, they don't fucking put away their grocery cart. People just don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's sad. I think one of the I think perhaps in the future that there's going to be like two civilizations, the one that get more enthralled with technology and just dive full in and become like, what's the word? Uh, I'm drawing a blank, but when when robot and human become one, singularity, I think a lot of people are going to become, like literally robots in the future. And then there's another part of civilization, probably the small minority, that will just kind of go off and branch off and live like nomadic lives in the wilderness or something similar, where they're just kind of living on their own, growing their own food, cooking their own stuff, having their animals and living like how we lived a couple hundred years ago, because that's kind of really where the peace and calm is found most. And I actually, it's kind of funny when you were talking there, I just thought of too of maybe people, that's what some people now who are indigenous and live, secluded lives, like some of these people in reservations and, undiscovered, jungles and throughout the world. Maybe that's what they think of us, as like these just animals who don't know how to actually live peaceful, happy lives. And because, we live this crazy, chaotic life right now as we are. But I think it's going to be even worse in the future with technology destroying our minds even further.
Well, that's another aspect of what we talked about earlier too, because again, our human brain is not different or that much different than it was hundreds of thousand years ago still, right? I mean, it's almost the same brain. We were never meant to know this many people. That was a big part of the mental health piece. Like, I used to answer all DMs and comments across multiple social media platforms, not including my daily email and member comments within my own site and app. And like, dude, like, to work all fucking day and then know that right after dinner I've got to go and answer 100 comments for people that are just, frankly, again, like, this sounds very callous, but they don't give a fuck about me. All they care about is the value I can give to them, whether it's entertainment, education, or done for you fitness content. I die tomorrow, they will never think about me again. I know that. But I would give them so much time and attention, and then I'm not communicating with people I really care about because I don't have the time or energy. Or if they hit me up, I'm fucking so grumpy and stressed out that I'm giving them, the worst of me, and I'm giving people that I don't even fucking know, that I'll never meet in life, the best of me, right? So you don't have to have millions of followers for that to be the case. Like, a lot of small business owners, they have anywhere from like 100 to 1,000 regular customers. That's too many people, man. That's too many people for this brain. Because now you got to give them all of you. You've got to, they got to know, like, who you fuck, what you do outside of the gym, or it's just too much. And that's part of what I had to do in rebuilding my mind, my business, my body. I just put limits. Like, I don't answer comments anymore. That turns a lot of people off. It hurts the engagement on my content. But I have to think long term with this, because he's 40, all right? And I got to do this another 10 or 20 years. And if I go back that route, that fool's gold route of trying to interact with that many people, because either you can answer everyone or you answer no one, in my opinion. Because I don't want to play favorites.
Yeah.
And especially if you grew your business through that level of interaction, like, that's a big mistake I made. Like, I could not sustain it. And then as a result, now that I don't do it anymore, people are not, they're just not as willing to spend with us, or to they'll watch the content. They won't like it anymore. Men are, man, they'll fucking, when's the last time the average man liked something on social media?
If it wasn't a girl, months ago.
We don't support each other. We don't support each other. We will take from one another.
Yeah.
But we will not support each other. And when you find a man that does, you keep them close in your life, because it's a rare thing. I'm lucky to have a handful of people like that. But most of the men I've encountered, it's a very transactional, territorial, competitive feeling, and that's why I think sometimes we feel so isolated.
Yeah, it's absolutely true, man. It's tough. And especially in this society that we're living in, it's even more isolated because, like we've said a few times, we're just not as interactive as we used to be face to face. We don't go out as much, in person. We don't go and hang out like we used to. It's more just we're still living in like a COVID world as much as we're past COVID now. Like, a lot of our setups now are still based off what happened 3 years ago. And it's it's fucking a lot harder, man. It's a lot harder to be a guy. It's a lot harder to be a human right now.
100%.
But
People, the listeners are like, this is the most fucking depressing
Yeah,
podcast
shit, dude.
of
I,
all
I
time.
did.
But no, I mean, we're not saying anything anyone isn't already thinking, right? I mean, I think
Yeah,
COVID collectively changed all of our brain chemistries. Like
yeah,
we'll never be the same after 2020.
yeah.
Thank
Well,
God, thank God for the NBA bubble.
yeah,
There were two things that got me through 2020, and it was the Last Dance documentary. If you're a 90s Bulls fan or MJ fan, you'll know what I'm talking about. And
yeah,
then for me, it was the NBA bubble too, just because there was like nothing to do.
yeah. And
There
for
was
me,
nothing.
I 100% agree. But for me, it was the UFC fights. They came back pretty early, and they
Oh
were doing
man, that was, and they were
the
going every
fucking
week.
Fight Island thing. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, Dana White as a businessman, he's a total fucking savage.
Oh, he's cutthroat. He's ruthless, but
Yeah.
he's fucking awesome, dude. Like
Oh no, no, no,
he's
you
cool.
can't deny it. I mean, because
Yeah,
I love boxing,
yeah,
but boxing is one of the worst collective products. Because I grew up a big Mike Tyson fan, but I've studied the history of boxing.
yeah.
I just love it. I actually use it in our fitness programs because
Nice.
I think it's important that any physical fitness program has, a basic self-defense component. You should be able to use your hands, defend yourself. It's also the best free cardio ever. You don't
Hmm.
need anything. Obviously, a heavy bag is nice, but boxing allows for a three-dimensional, multi-planar, skill-based approach to cardio. So like you go on a bike, you can go faster, you can go slower, you can turn up the resistance, but that's about it.
Yeah,
Treadmill, you can go incline, faster, slower. Boxing, there's no limits to how you can move, what combinations you can throw. And in boxing, just I think it called the sweet science for a reason. It's a beautiful sport, but when you see, like, I just wish Dana White was in charge of boxing.
yeah,
What I'm trying to say, like,
yeah.
because I mean,
He would
it would
fix
be,
it. He would fix it.
he would fix it. He would fix it. And I'm not as big of an MMA guy just because I would never personally just want to be like in that close of contact with another man. Football was close enough for me. Like,
Yeah. 'Cause you hit
like
each other and then you get away and then you
yeah,
get back.
I don't want to be like grappling with a sweaty dude on the ground, but yeah, some people dig it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, he really. I said at the beginning of the pandemic to some close friends, like, this is either going to be a 2-year training camp or a 2-year prison sentence. Like 90+% of people, it was a prison sentence. The other 10%, they like transformed their lives or their businesses or their approach to things. And in some cases, you won't reap the rewards of that, like, because a lot of this stuff you got to plant the seeds
Yeah.
before the fruit gets born. 3 to 5+ years later. So, there's ebbs and flows to all this too, right? We're right now in the mix of the down cycle of this American capitalist system. But if it doesn't come back around again this time, then I know we're in trouble.
Yeah.
But it makes me think. I think fondly of like 2018.
What do you mean?
It just like 2018, everything was great. Things were just like things were really going well. There was a good energy out there. I guess I'm more like pre-pandemic is what I'm
Oh,
trying to
okay.
say. Like it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I look fondly on those days.
Yeah. Same, dude. Same. It was a different world even 5 years ago. It's but I do think that there's hope as much as, like you said, this was a depressing podcast at times, but also a realistic podcast and a truthful one. I think we spoke a lot of truth here. But I think the future is bright in the next couple of years as far as what we can do to at least improve ourselves, improve our health, improve our fitness, improve our business, endeavors, whatever they may be. I think if we take responsibility and ownership of our own lives, we can still do a lot of good things for ourselves. Maybe the world in general is declining over the next, few decades. There's nothing we can do with that. Just like in the pandemic, there's nothing we could do to actually stop the pandemic as much as it sucked. And we were locked at our homes. There's so much we can do individually to overcome those types of things. So even if the world goes to shit in 30 years, it doesn't mean we have to go to shit personally, individually. And that's kind of the approach I like to look at and have on certain things. And, one of the things I learned from the pandemic is as much as you can't control certain things, you can still control what's inside of you and you can control how you deal with things. And as much as you might want to control it, just the simple task of letting go and allowing it to kind of run its course is very empowering, and it actually can give you a lot of fulfillment.
Yeah, man. Like, look, the reality is too, as much as a lot of the last several years has sucked, it does, pressure does make diamonds. Unfortunately, not everyone is going to become a diamond. I wish it wasn't the case, but a lot of the great stuff that will need 5 or 10 years from now, it's being worked out right now.
Yeah.
By like I said, the people that they took the opportunity to look inside, fix themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, realign, reconnect, refocus for the future. And those people will help us get through those tough times. If you just look at history, that's how it's worked out. If this is actually end of times, the other side of that is just enjoy the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
Right. Enjoy it. Keep working. Keep focusing on your routine, but also, like I said, the hourglass. I look over there. Okay, maybe that's too much time spending on my workout today.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen someone you care about all day, so it just there's a big shift in a lot of things going on right now, and like I said, you can control what you consume. So that's one of the first shifts, right? You stop consuming shit that makes you feel bad or makes you anxious or angry or hateful or cynical. You got to cut that shit out of your mental diet. And then you got to start asking yourself, who the fuck do you want to be? Do you want to be fat or do you want to be fit? Do you want to be sick or do you want to be active, healthy, and vibrant? These are choices. And again, those choices have less impact the older we get. It's harder to make wholesale changes, to learn new things as you get older. That's undeniable. It's not that you can't do shit when you're older. It does get tough. Like I tried to relearn or learn some new things like during the pandemic. And I'm like, fuck, man, like this is hard. It is hard to try learning a new language at 40.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what you need.
I've tried at 30, didn't work.
Yeah, no, it's even harder at 40, bro. But I mean, really what it is, and again, if we don't have something we can always fall back into, that's where people get into trouble. I'm not saying it has to be fitness, but you have to have you have to have a baseline routine in place. Routine is my life, man. I'm one of the most consistent motherfuckers you'll ever meet. And I don't have a lot of natural gifts, but if you keep showing up, eventually you're the last person in the room. And that's one thing, like on a positive side, if you have the ability to get into routine, there are very few things over the long haul that are not available to you in this life. It might take 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but it's likely you'll have that time. So why not?
Yeah.
Someone's got to get it.
Yeah. Are you friends with Craig Ballantyne? Do you know?
I'm not friends. I know of him.
Yeah.
He was, you talk about OGs, like turbulence training.
Fuck yeah. He's been around for a while.
Yeah. And he transformed from fitness guy to business guy, he's done a lot of great things.
Yeah. He's a great guy. Yeah. No, he's all about that routine and just, the most dedicated guy in the world, something like that. He calls himself, which is, kind of funny, but also, there's a lot of truth there. I mean, he's all about discipline and, doing shit day in and day out. It actually, much as it sucks, to think about it, like I have to do this, stick to routine every day. It's like, it actually, at least from his perspective and from what I can discern, it gives you a lot more freedom because you do check off the boxes that you need to get done. And then after those things are done, it's like, whoa, you got way more time to do more stuff, the actual things that you really enjoy. And you're not worrying about, having to do all the menial tasks. And I don't know, there's something to be said about discipline and routine though, as opposed to so many people out there, especially now, who are lacking those things and kind of don't have a purpose to their day. So they wake up and they're just kind of all over the fucking place. They don't know what to do. And, it's tough to get ahead when you don't know what you're doing. You don't have a direction.
Dude, discipline is undefeated.
Yeah.
Over the long haul, you cannot beat a disciplined individual. You might be able to match a disciplined individual with your level of discipline, but I mean, and discipline goes into all, it transcends all aspects of your life. Like, there isn't anything in your life that doesn't require discipline if you really think about it. It takes discipline to watch TV.
Yeah.
just to focus on the television, to pay attention to what, like, but you know, the things that people struggle with the most, disciplines, it's food, exercise, stress management, and, you know, being disciplined enough to take their career to the next level, you know, because that takes a level of patience, right? The patience it requires to because that's the one thing about, like, I mean, you mentioned entrepreneurs and stuff like that. That's why, like, the beauty of being an entrepreneur, man, like, anytime we have success, I'm likely a big part of that. Anytime we have failure, it's almost guaranteed to be me.
Yeah.
It's up to me.
Yeah.
Now, I have to make my own hours. So the level of discipline required for that, like, because, you know, right now I could, after we're done here, I could do a little more work, or I could make it kind of a semi-half day. I'm going to have that decision to make. And sometimes it's a good decision. And again, I have the freedom to make that decision because I can always make up the work on the weekend. But you also have to create boundaries for yourself so you're not, you know, working all the time and your whole life isn't work. But that is really one of the biggest challenges having left Men's Health is that, you know, like when you're at Men's Health and there's a set photo and video shoot at 10, I don't have a fucking choice. But when you film on your own, okay, well, I'm going to start the day with a little bit of TV. You can, we'll just do it tomorrow. And again, occasionally we'll do this because my wife and I do this together and we think big picture. And some days it makes more sense to take the time off and just do it another day. But again, what I'm trying to say is that's why I think fitness is so important for entrepreneurs, because whether your body, your mind is your business. Even if you're not in fitness, it's your business. You know, like, it's the only way you'll have the energy and the physical, mental resources required to stay in business if your body and your mind is right. And if you love yourself enough to, you know, dig deep enough every day to do the things that most people don't want to do on the regular, especially when no one else is over your shoulder keeping you accountable. Like, I train at home alone. I have for decades. No one can do that, bro. Like, no one does that.
Yeah.
They have to go to the gym just to get that release,
Yeah.
and just to have people around. And then most people will never work out without having someone there pushing them. So the level of discipline I've acquired over the years, anything I encounter in business, and I've had some real business challenges, nothing has been as tough for me as sticking with my fitness routine. So what I'm trying to say is it's hardened me to the point where my business challenges, as big as they may seem sometimes, are all temporary, because I'm going to keep showing up and do the shit that I can control. I'm going to keep posting the workouts. I'm going to keep myself in shape enough to motivate people to keep doing it themselves. I never ask anyone to do what I wouldn't do myself. Just like my first coach, you know, it meant something to me that the guy who taught me how to lift was strong as fuck and actually lifted himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people out there right now, they give advice, they don't follow it. Yeah. So, you know, that's why I think a lot of us are broken. We actually, our leaders suck. We have very bad leaders.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't able to decipher between good and bad content, because if it's a visual medium, you take what you see. You judge a book by its cover. So if the person looks good or fit, that person must know what they're talking about. Some of the best coaches out there, maybe they look like dog shit, but in my opinion, the best people can blend it, right? Like, you should be able to know it, show it. You should live it, teach it. And, you know, these are just, I don't know how. There are a lot of people that are successful, that have made a lot of money, that aren't fit. But I think in this day and age, if you have any hope of making it as an entrepreneur, unless you build physical strength, stamina, and endurance, and you can't do anything physical without the mental, because it's all right here, man. It's all here. The decision to keep going, to keep showing up. So to me, it's that resilience building, like it's the only way that I've been able to find a way to mimic how hard it was for my dad growing up, or how hard his life was. in a slum in North Africa. I mean, I'll never be able to experience that. I'll never know it. But we have to make things a little bit uncomfortable for ourselves, because otherwise we would just become so soft, and we will always make easy choices. And those really compound, and 5 or 10 years later, you're like, bro, like I've completely let the last 10 years of my life slip by. I could have worked harder. I wasted my time on toxic people, toxic things. So if you're listening right now, man, make a fucking choice. Make a choice who you want to be, and commit to a routine that, you know, it can start with as little as, like, I tell people with this with fitness, like, just focus on one thing. Everybody wants to start, okay, what's the diet? What's the full body workout? What's the split? What supplements do I have to get? Okay, focus on one thing. Can you commit to doing a daily plank? Can you wake up out of fucking bed and just do a plank for a minute? And can you do it for 7 straight days? Because then the next week, what do? You can add in a squat hold. Easy exercises, right? Because what we know is if it's too hard, you will not continue with it, especially on your own. But the thought of someone saying to someone, okay, you've got to work out an hour a day, 3 days a week. You've got to now grocery shop and meal prep every Sunday. Every Sunday now is just dedicated to making chicken breasts and batches of vegetables, right? And now you can't eat the stuff that you enjoy that helps you unwind at the end of a long, stressful week. There's just no way. But people can start with simple things like, okay, I'm gonna hit a plank every morning. I'm gonna see how far that goes. And then maybe what you do is you don't add another exercise, but in week 2, you do a slightly harder plank. Maybe you elevate your feet, or you pick up an arm or a leg. You know, these are the things that allow you to build winning habits. From a dietary standpoint, it can be as simple for some people as just cutting portion sizes in half. You don't have to change your diet, right? But just go from a big to a small plate, and just be committed to the small plate. Like, and there's limits, right? You can't just it can't have like multiple levels, the small plate, right? Like once it's filled on one level, that's it. Supplement wise, right? You can add a greens powder to your diet. You can't take fish oil or an omega-3 supplement. That your health is not that important to you, that you just won't even take like a simple thing that can help with your brain, your joints, your skin. You know, so these are, and by the way, it doesn't have to just be physical. Like if you're going to look at holistically, diet, exercise, supplementation, right? And then recovery could be a topic. You could say, okay, well, I'm going to do a daily plank. I'm going to cut my portions in half, or I'm going to limit flexibility to just 1 day a week. And I'll be perfect for 6 days. Again, there's so many different ways you can do it. I'm going to add one quality nutritional supplement to help round up my diet. And then I'm going to invest in one recovery modality that takes me out of pain. Maybe it's one of those percussion massagers, or it's a vibrating heating pad for if you have back pain. Just something that makes you feel better and less pain. You'll be likely to move more, right? So again, and then maybe 5, you get one nice thing for yourself that motivates you. It could be a bucket list item. It could be a place you've always wanted to go 3 months from now that makes you like put in the work now for the break. That's one thing too. I was trying to remotivate myself. Okay, I now need, it's okay. It doesn't make me less of a person, but I need some carrots now to chase. I need some specific things that like, because, you know, it gets tough to just film push-ups and squats and lunges every day.
Yeah.
So what am I doing this for beyond making money and helping people? You know, I gotta treat myself too. So I think those are 5 areas. You immediately leave the podcast, right? You can focus on one thing when it comes to exercise, diet, supplementation, recovery, and then like a lifestyle or something that just gets you motivated enough to connect on those 4 pieces. You know what I'm saying? And big changes can happen off of that, man. Because once people get into a routine, it's so hard to get the ball rolling. And I learned that myself. I took a 6-month break from social media from when I was going through this mental health crisis. And I came back from it, and like, I've been trying to regain whatever that was for the last couple of years. I still haven't, because I had to basically restart. Like I had it rolling for a decade straight, where I posted every single day. Then I took 6 months off. I took 6 months off of my podcast too. I've got 232 episodes. But that 6-month break I took, I lost 80% of the listeners.
Wow.
Still trying to get them back.
Oh shit.
And that was, but never stop working out. So even when you take, like, you got to have at least one thing, you never fucking stop working.
Yeah.
Like your routine, it's going to change, it's going to vary, it's going to ebb and flow. You go through winning streaks, losing streaks. Business, right? Just like sports. You're going to win the championship one year, then maybe you won't win. You won't even make the playoffs for 5 years. But you just keep showing up. You keep working the system. So I hope at least those tips can at least get them, moving in the right direction. I just launched this book, this training manual called The Ultimate Push-Up Guide. And the beauty of making this, when I was 14 years old, I couldn't do a single push-up. I actually had to start on my knees. Now I'm 40 and I can do single arm push-ups, plyo push-ups, handstand push-ups. And basically what it is, it's a 5-level progression system that takes you from ground zero to superhero, on the knees to single arm push-ups, everything in between. And it really gave me an appreciation of because it was also the first time it's available as a Kindle, but also you can get it as a book. Remember those?
Yeah.
Books? And when I got the first copy, I was like, wow, this is the first time I've actually felt some achievement in my life. Because all the work I've done has been digital for 10 years, and it's not real to me. And I know it exists, but having something in my hand to see, and then just thinking back on the fact that there was a time I couldn't even do a regular push-up, and now I've written a really good book about it. And it's taken decades of consistent work. There hasn't been a day that I haven't found myself in a push-up position since I was 14. Even like getting down there and doing a stretch or holding a plank, or just doesn't have to be an all-out situation, but you have to get in the practice and in the position mostly daily, but really do amazing things can happen. And when I had that book in my hands, I'm like, wow, this is a reminder to me that, from a business standpoint, what's old is now becoming new again. You go to stores, and what are they selling? Album covers.
Yeah, it's true.
And now that's like decor on the wall.
Yeah.
It was obsolete last 20 years, but then all of a sudden it comes back. So, and then what you notice too, right? Your audience, you're gonna age with your audience, and there's always a nostalgia that, like I just saw today, Threads. See this fucking thing, Threads?
Oh.
It's like Instagram's new Twitter. So now there's another social media platform that we're likely gonna have to post on every day. I threw up in my mouth a little bit, then I moved on with my day. It's kind of how I felt about TikTok 2 years ago. It's like,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's harder for us as we get older to keep up with stuff, keep adding new things. And what's crazy, when we launched the book, 3 out of 4 people are choosing the hard copy versus the digital.
Cool. I like
so
that.
I think things are shifting around, you know what I'm saying? Like, where I think people are starting to realize, okay, we need some physical things in our life. I can't just live online. I need something I can hold in my hand. I need to actually be in the room with someone. FaceTime, I do FaceTime sessions. We can have a lot of success through those, but nothing beats the real thing in person. I just, and these are just the realities we're facing now. We have to like my wife and I, we gotta make some friends. We know nobody where we're from. Yeah. Our families live elsewhere. So, but it's hard to meet new people. You were just talking about that earlier with the whole dating thing.
Oh, it's fucking tough, man. It's hard these days, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. It seems like you're on the right track again after the pandemic, at least. So it's good to see that, man. It's good to see you, coming back up and getting your life back where you want it to be, at least, because you can float by and you can pretend like everything's fine, especially on social media. It's pretty fucking easy to do that, post some good pictures of yourself flexing or taking, some poses. But in reality, if you're suffering inside, then what does it really matter? You sell some products online and make some money and you're unhappy at the end of the day. It's just like, none of it means anything. The most important thing is what's really making you happy, and if you are happy or not.
Exactly. And again, you can't tie it all to clout or money or stuff like that. And we need that to do what we have to do in this life. But again, that's what we really have talked about this whole time here, is that we have ancient brains, and they're facing new things that the brain is never meant to experience. I feel really bad for kids these days.
Yeah.
I don't know how they. I mean, can you imagine having an Instagram account in grade school, man? Like, I don't even know what do they do.
I don't know.
How is it possible? So we're lucky. We're lucky that we were able to at least become like 18 years old or 21 before having to like encounter some of this stuff, because at least the brain was mostly formed. You know, they're having to like. So I mean, again, we I don't want to go on another tangent there, but you know, we are lucky. We are lucky. If you're around this age, we're lucky, man, because.
Yeah, it's a different world now, man. But BJ, it's been an awesome interview, man. I really do appreciate you coming on. I feel like we could talk for a few more hours, but I'm sure we got a lot of things to get done today, the rest of the day. I'm gonna have to get you back on though for sure. So if you're down for it, we'll do another episode soon. But what's a little send off message and then a place our listeners can check out your work and your podcast?
Well, we got podcast listeners. So, and I talked to you about this before we started recording. I'd go on podcasts, and I don't tell people I actually have a podcast. It's called the BJ Gaddour Podcast. BJ Gaddour. We've got 232 episodes and counting. I do a variety of topics. Obviously, fitness is my main expertise, but I do talk nutrition, supplementation, recovery. Just did a sleep podcast, a podcast on back pain. And then I do talk, you know, some sports, some pop culture, movies, TV, stuff like that. iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen. And then I'm at BJ Gaddour on all social media outlets. And my website is either bjgaddour.com, which is kind of the umbrella site. And then my programs or workout app is at thedailybj.com. Pun intended, by the way. I don't know if you got that, but
yeah.
I actually, when I launched the program, it was actually $9.69. I really, you know, the BJ, because people used to call me blowjob in high school.
Yeah.
So I just leaned into it, and you know, so, but no, I try to, honestly, I know we talk a lot of serious stuff, but I do try to have some fun. I've been trying to remind myself that I used to be a much more fun person, and I want to just tap back into that, because life has gotten a bit too serious, and people need to laugh.
Yeah.
People need a bit of levity. And fitness can be a little bit serious sometimes.
Hey, man, 100% agree. But thanks again, BJ. Really appreciate it, man. And guys, make sure you check out his podcast, his website. He's doing some great things. And yeah, it was a great pleasure meeting you, man. It was a great pleasure having this conversation. And like I said, we're going to get you back on soon and do it again, because it was a lot of fun and very interesting. So take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, Justin. Have a good one, buddy.